You ready? We expect anybody else? Tyler?
He should be coming.
Yeah, he's probably still out harvesting.
He should be in.
Only for another hour.
Only for another hour, right, yeah. All right, we're gonna go live now, I guess? Or is this is not being, this is being recorded, right?
Yeah, we're rolling, not broadcast. Good to go.
Thank you. All right, I'll call the Town of Barnstable Shellfish Committee meeting to order on this December 14th, 2022 at 6 o'clock. Oh, it's 6:04 p.m. In the past, we've done a roll call, so why don't we continue with a roll call, please? DJ, start with you.
Doug Crook. Al Serpenant.
Jake Angelo.
Bill Chirapon.
Patricia Farina.
Amy Cordo, Shellfish Constable.
And Stuart Rapp. With us, we have Town Councilor Chris Clark, and we have a number of the public here. Can you get the public's name on a list for us, please?
Already got it.
Oh, great. Thank you very much. First order of business will be to read a notice of recording. Please note that tonight's meeting is recorded and broadcast on Channel 18, and in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20, I must inquire whether anyone is taping this meeting and to please make their presence known. Hearing none, I'll move on to approve the minutes of the November 9, 2022 meeting. Jake, would you move those, please?
I make a motion to approve the meetings from
From the 9th.
from the November 9th meeting.
Moved?
So moved.
How about seconded?
How about second?
Great. Moved, seconded. Any discussion? They on the screen? Right.
Did you bring that?
Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Approved. Thank you. Comments from the chair. The only comments I have is there's an agenda item that should have made it to tonight's agenda, and that is in regards to ownership of shellfish grants. And Al Supernaut is going to pass out some information about that.
I'll do that right now.
And if you would, we'll go through the rest of the meeting, and then we'll pick it up on new business, or on old business, if that's okay. We have a couple of members of the public here for that? Okay, great.
Thanks.
Because I think Amy's going to be pretty quick tonight.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, floor's yours.
That can be fine. Yeah. So natural resources report, we have our numbers for over the past 2 months, which look like they're not all going to come on this one sheet.
Mike, Amy.
So we have here our December numbers. You can see that we are still up on pretty much everything, with the exception of resident senior permits and veteran senior permits. But at this point in the year, pretty much everybody that's bought a shellfish permit ahead of oyster season has done so. And so really now it's shifting towards renewals. Anyone have any questions about these numbers? Okay.
Have you any complaints about oysters in North Bay?
Nope.
Street? No?
No, just that we haven't increased the limit yet, but we're
Still
doing
half a
that
peck.
effective January 1st. We go to a peck a week at Bay Street to continue cleaning them out, and then after that area's been harvested at a peck a week for a month and a half, when the Mills River and Prince Cove open, we'll get rid of the commercial closure at Bay Street and just leave it open to everybody. And since we won't have any we won't have any seed there, we don't have any seed this year for next year, since we're letting it lie fallow while we manage the dermo infection, it's likely we won't have over the next handful of years a commercial closure there at all, but it will be still used as an area for cohogs. And we have timeline reminders, because it's that time of year where people need to get stuff into us on time. So aquaculturist domicile proof and annual acreage fees are due by the end of the business day, Tuesday, January 3rd, because the 31st is Saturday and the town's celebrating the holiday on the 2nd. So they're due that Tuesday. Commercial renewal application in your $5 placeholder is due by the end of the business day, January 31st, 2023. Same for anyone who's interested in the commercial lottery. Because that deadline is a Tuesday, the commercial lottery drawing will be held via Zoom on Wednesday, February 1st, but we haven't picked a time yet because it's December. So that'll be picked before the January Shellfish Committee meeting. And on recreational permits, 2022 permits are good until the 1st of March 2023 if you decide to renew ahead of time, because they will go available on sale. You'll get an email within the next week if you haven't already. I'm not sure when those are going live. That's handled by administrative staff. You can renew early at a lower cost to sort of mitigate the amount of permit that you already paid for to get to March of this year. Otherwise, any new permits that are starting being issued the 3rd of January will be effective the 15th of January and will expire January 15th, 2024. We have...
That's a shift. We're going to a calendar year on licenses.
Yes, yeah. All of the regulation change proposals that we had for this previous year were approved, and so we do have some changes to things. This is effective tomorrow. All of the conditionally approved areas in Barnstable Harbor are clear to open. This is the recreational area obviously stays a recreational area. This is the new closed to commercial zone, so everything else that used to be closed to commercial is no longer closed to commercial. It's open to everybody. This is a blow up of what that looks like at Scudder and down the end of Calves Pasture. Again, this is effective tomorrow. Papaneset Bay map for shoestring. Shoestring tested dirty when it was supposed to be open twice. I think 3 times, and you can't open until December 1st the following year, so we're getting a little looking like East Bay kind of in here. But it's now open effective December 9th, and then this will be the updated map for Salton Point and Rendezvous, which is again effective tomorrow, so this is a conditionally approved area that was closed. And then we have, what else do we have? I think that's all that I have in terms of like natural resources updates. So,
Any
if anyone
questions?
has any questions.
Chris?
Amy, is it possible to put those deadlines or the document with all those important dates on the website?
I mean, it's sent out to every single person that has a vested stake in all of their renewal forms. So, you know, I mean, I can, but if you're not going to see it on your renewal form, you're likely not going to see it on the town website either.
Any other questions? Jake?
Last time, there was a bunch of coags and I believe the Prince Cove Flupsy with no itinerary to get them in the ground. Did they end up getting in the ground? And when
Yeah,
did that happen?
everything's planted.
Well,
Yep.
when did that happen?
I want to say they finished planting like Wednesday or Thursday of last week.
Is that right off Rendezvous?
No, they were still in the Flupsies
Yeah, yeah.
and in Prince Cove.
Where did-
They plant in 3 bays.
they put it in
I don't know where
there.
I don't know where they planted
That's
most
kind of
recently
late,
in
so
3
is
bays.
there any going to be
It
any
is kinda
plans,
late,
like,
yeah,
for
so
next year to not do that, maybe?
There are plans to scale back the amount of cohogs that they got because that 3.5 million is just too.
It seems
too
like it
many.
wasn't a budget issue or anything, but maybe like buy bigger coags, because $17,000 went back to the general fund, and instead of having them growing up in the Flupsy for so long, that $17,000 could have been spent towards increasing the size of the initial cohogs.
Yeah,
Get them in the ground faster.
right. The problem often is that you can't get them at the size that you want them for that sort of operation to happen.
I
So-
can help with that. I mean, there's a lot of growers out there.
Okay,
I can help you guys find somebody.
Cool.
then definitely do that.
I will.
So that concludes your natural resources report?
Yeah.
Great. So next order of business, new business, 2022 Shellfish Committee meeting schedule. Everybody see that on the agenda? Any questions about this? Okay. Pat, would you move this schedule? I'm going to suggest we move the whole schedule, either approve it or not approve it.
I make a motion that we approve the schedule as presented here for the 2024.
Great, it's been moved. Do we have a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Right, it's been seconded by Jake. Discussion about the schedule? Hearing none? All those,
No Zoom in this. These are all,
live.
okay.
We want your
Any more
presence
discussion?
here.
Would you like to discuss it?
As mentioned before, by the town, you have to decide whether or not you want to meet entirely by Zoom or entirely in person. There is no, like,
Oh, there's no
shifting
mix and match?
around.
Could it be
Yeah,
6
there's
months
no
and 6
mix and
months?
match. Like, your socks have to match in that respect until, I don't know, maybe someday there will be an option for that, but currently there is not.
Instead of not a hybrid, but could there be like maybe certain times a year, Zoom and then some of them in person?
No, because then those socks don't match.
Okay,
All
I
the
just didn't
socks
know,
have to
'cause I
match
know
for
we
the
talked
year.
about before, but it was more about like in the same meeting, some people on Zoom and some people, but
No, from the beginning, it was you're either meeting in person and you're meeting over Zoom. And that there may be an opportunity in the future for a hybrid model that would allow, say, people like Bob, who I'm quite sure is in Florida right now, to Zoom in to a meeting that's held in person, but they're either in person or via Zoom.
but if they were just Zoom or just in person, you couldn't do like 6 months out of the year, just a devil's advocate, just some in person and some on Zoom like we did, you know, for the voting thing, we had like 2.
Well, that was like an emergency situation, so they made an amendment because they needed to use this room while the vault was broken. So we didn't really have a choice in that matter. But no, moving forward, you either are meeting in person or via Zoom.
And
There's
who's in charge of that, just for my own understanding?
town management,
Like a department in particular?
town manager.
Okay. That's all. I was just curious.
Do we have an understanding of who's going to go to Florida and not be here? So we know we're going to have a quorum while they're gone? A calendar or some dates? I mean, you're going Saturday, and we'll be gone for how long?
A while. I don't, it's hard to, I could be back in 2 weeks or not.
Okay, so that's
So
one.
there's 2 down.
Two, who's the second one?
Bob Lancaster.
Yeah, Bob Lancaster's there now.
Two, so
That makes it difficult. So,
I'd like to know before we show up here if we're going to have a quorum,
I hear you.
particularly in the winter months. I mean, I don't care about the rest of the year, but the winter months are not going to be fun.
Why not try doing it by email the day before?
I would think even when the agenda is sent out, that people could
Yeah,
write
just
back
write
to
back, say,
Alicia
"I'm not gonna be
whether
there."
or not they plan to attend. So that way we'd know ahead of time if we would have a
Advise us, yeah.
quorum.
Good idea. Yep, okay,
You okay with that, Alicia? Okay.
all right. Would you put that little note in the first 3 months for us to make sure?
Yeah, to make sure.
Those of us who are a little,
Yeah.
memory loss. Thank
Any
you.
further discussion about the new business regarding our meeting minutes, or our meetings? Hearing none? They've been, all those in favor signify by saying aye, or have we already done that? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. What?
I do have one odd question. If for some
too late.
reason they decide to go along with this no more daylight savings, then we may not fall back, right, in November?
Right.
And then if that were the case, if we were not to fall back, would you then want to keep the meetings at 6:30?
Address it then.
Cool.
All right, I'm going to move on to upcoming and old renewal and transfer hearings. We have one on our list, hearing for renewal of aquaculture license site NG 008 Barnstable Harbor for Philip Boudreau. And Philip's here. Hi, Philip. Good. Tell us a little bit about your grant and what your intention is, please.
I didn't even know it was numbered that. I've always called it 99.5, because that's where it started. I've had the grant license since 1999, about 23 years. Gone through some good years and some bad years. Luckily, the good years have been more towards these years. It was tough getting started out there. We didn't know what we were doing. Bill Mullen was helping me a lot. We tried oysters, we went to cohogs, had a lot of kills, mostly through predation in those days. We had a little bit of disease in early years, but we got our footing after a while, and for the last 20 years, for the most part, it's been pretty good. We did have a big kill, 100% kill, about 6 or 7 years ago. Ooh. It was a real tough winter, and we'd off-wintered and lost everything that we off-wintered. I don't think we were unique. We heard a lot of stories about people doing that, but that was a 2-year recovery right off the bat, almost 3 years from that. But it's been really solid for the last 5 years at least. Got a lot of animals on there now. It's all oysters now. It's all grow out. We did a lot of seed over the years, sold a lot of seed to the town, as a matter of fact. But we don't do any seed whatsoever other than, plant seed for full grow out.
Cool.
So, it's a difficult site because we're on the north side and we've got a piece of a channel that comes in on the northwesterly corner. And so we probably got about 2/3 of the site that we can use. There's a lot of sugar sand up in the northwesterly corner. It drops off. But aside from that, it's good. And, we've done pretty well there. We harvested a fair amount out of there and probably harvested 180,000 over the last 2 years of market animals. And I've got 125,000 roughly. Well, I don't have them out there now. They were out this fall. About half of those are in. Maybe 2/3 of those are in, and 2/3 of the seed are in at this point. We're a little behind in getting them off, and that's been an issue every year, trying to get all the animals off site and get your equipment off, but mostly animals off fast before you get the ice come in, because the ice makes a mess of them out there.
Interesting.
So that's where we've been. I'm asking for another 10 years, and probably my last 10 years because I'm 65 now, but and none of my kids have any interest.
That's too bad. Any questions, committee, for Mr. Boudreau? Natural Resources. Do you have any issues with this grant?
No, not at all.
Great.
No.
Anybody from the public wish to speak? Great. So I'll entertain a motion that we recommend it to the town manager. 'Cause we don't approve it, you know that.
I know, yeah.
We don't approve it, we just recommend or don't.
Second it.
Great. Further discussion? No further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great. Congratulations. We'll recommend it through today, or tonight's minutes. You'll pass it on?
Yeah, so the hearing will be held via Zoom, and typically after I give any comments from Natural Resources, and as the Shellfish Constable, I mentioned the date that it was reviewed by the Shellfish Committee, if there were any comments and how many people voted in favor or not in favor of it, so.
Great.
They've already scheduled that, by the way.
Yes, it is
For the
January
4th.
4th at 9:30 a.m., yeah.
Okey doke. Well,
Great.
thank you very much for your time.
Congratulations.
Thank
Best of luck out there. Nice to see you, Philip.
You too. Take care.
You as well. Next item is upcoming proposed coastal projects. John and Elizabeth Gainey. I don't see John O'Day here. Is this something that's kicked over?
So this went to the
Oh.
Conservation Commission on the 22nd of
November.
And yeah, that NOI came in when I was in Florida, and I guess no one was checking the Shellfish NOI mailbox while I was gone. Not that it would matter anyway, because I don't think it came in before your November meeting on the 9th.
No.
So they did, it's something that had already been essentially approved, but they were just changing the position of the dock. It was approved through Conservation Commission, along with a set of revised plans that show the specific locations and sizes of the piles to be used. We did do a shellfish survey out there, and it's just bleh.
And where is this?
It is up.
Bay Lane. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's up there, yeah, up in the Centerville River, way up. So yeah, Natural Resources didn't have any opposition to it.
Great. The next item, number 2, under Section 6, Christian Camp Meeting Association. That had a conservation hearing date of December the 6th. It's also Lake Elizabeth Drive, so that's pretty far up there as well.
Yeah, I think Cameron Larson, their representative, has been sending these to me specifically because of the wetland and the herring run.
Okay.
So you can see these are the site photographs. Their plan is to replace exactly what's there within the footprint of what's there. And they themselves asked for a continuance, and so it will go back to the commission on the 20th of December, but
Okay.
unless you had concerns for herring, as they do fall under shellfish in this town. There's no shellfish there.
Is there any herring in there?
No.
Yeah, no.
It's a very failed fish ladder that is in need of repair. The neighborhood association has tried to get SNAP grants and also raise the money to have it fixed. They've also approached DPW about it, but it's just because it's such a low flow system and would need so much work for something that's so small. It doesn't fall high on the list of priorities when they already have massive rehabilitation efforts going on in the Marston's Mills River system and are looking at the revisions to, well, they're looking at addressing issues at Long Pond as well, part of the Centerville River system, where probably most of these herring go.
Good.
Up in pocket, so.
Before I move to number 3, anybody from the public have any questions or comments on either of those 2 applications? Okay, I'll move on to number 3. This is set for a conservation hearing on the 3rd of January, 150 Carriage Lane.
Yeah, it's in West Bay. Like out by like what we call the West Bay Terrace area.
Okay.
They did find shellfish out there. We only just got this week. So we haven't had a chance to do a survey yet. Liz will be doing one next week. But they did find a decent amount of quahogs out there. There are a couple of commercial guys, like Eric Hildreth goes out there every once in a while. Occasionally Mark Lazari's out there. And there are a couple of older gentlemen recreationally that have a boat that go out there specifically in pursuit of chowder quahogs because they're there. So.
And there's no dock there now?
There's not. I thought there was,
Yeah.
but it's the next parcel over.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was like, isn't there a rule on how many docks you can have per property? But it's a separate property.
Gotcha.
So, I imagine we will have comments about it just because it's a decent shellfish area, but I don't know that will
Matter. Anybody from the committee want to comment on this?
It's
What?
it's for kayaks?
It's a permanent pile-supported dock for dinghies and a kayak
Yeah.
storage. Yeah, and they want to float at the end of it.
How far out does it go?
Is this the one with the plan? I'll admit I have not had. Oh, Arlene, hi. Perfect. You can explain.
Good timing. How far out does that dock go?
Pardon me?
How far out does your dock go, or your proposed dock go?
63 feet beyond low water.
Talk about getting you right when you came in.
Perfect timing.
We'll wait for you to come over to a microphone so everyone can hear you. And
People want paper prints of the plans, because I have.
I got it right here.
I think not.
Maybe.
Did we get this? Was this mailed to us? Emailed?
It just came in, is what I just
came in.
heard.
Okay.
I mean, I got it this week. I sent it to you guys in a series of 3 emails yesterday,
I think I saw that yesterday.
Yeah, so it's relatively, admittedly, with like all of the sea turtle stuff we've been doing the past few days, have not had a chance to review it yet, so I don't know much. So thank you for being here, Arlene, to explain it. I don't think this is turning. I think it's just doing the same thing.
Okay.
So this is just a dinghy dock,
A dinghy dock, okay.
but because there are shellfish and the map maps it as reasonably high ranking, and the Conservation Commission would require 30 inches of freeboard under the boat. So there's no getting a motorboat in here. He may ultimately have a small sailboat, but right now it's kayaks. He did ask that it be a permanent installation because people are having so much trouble getting somebody to maintain the seasonal docks now. That's the first problem. And, you know, he's getting old, as we all are. The stability of a pile-supported dock is more attractive to him. Most of the area, the inshore area, has, based on our shellfish survey, has nothing there, even though it's the bottom sandy and clean. And this is, you know, there are permanent docks with motorboats on either side of him.
All right.
They're about 150 feet away in each direction because we off-centered the pier a little bit.
Gotcha.
So are there gonna be provisions in this that, like, no motors will ever be used on boats at this dock?
I'm sorry,
Provisions that say that no motors will ever be used on this dock?
yeah, the Conservation Commission puts that in as a condition, and that we're required to put a sign on the
Dock?
on the dock that says no motorboats.
Yeah, because it is a pretty good area.
Gotcha.
It's up pretty high because it's going to come off the bulkhead that's there. There's a vertical bulkhead landward of the salt marsh. And so there'll be a full 5 feet in the intertidal zone.
To walk under?
So you can walk. There will also be a set of lateral access stairs on the outboard side of the salt marsh.
Question? Pat?
How much value does this give to a homeowner when he adds something like this to his property? Price pretty substantially, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah.
That's an assessor's
Yeah.
question, I would suggest. But it probably does.
Yeah, must.
Yeah.
Must.
But I don't know. Do you know, Arlene?
I'm sorry, once again.
The question was, what is the value, increase in value, I should say, of the property having this dock as opposed to not having it?
I know the Popio dock to the north is valued over $75,000. This one, just being a dinghy dock, probably will be in the 50,000 range.
That's all it increases, is only $50,000?
If you can't get a motorboat on it.
So one that you can get a real motorboat on is only $75,000 or something?
Well, I think the assessment is relatively old, and they don't update the piers as often as they do some other things.
No, but what's like an updated assessment? You know what I mean? Because $75,000 is nothing these days,
Well,
you know?
I've seen
you like.
assessments for docks in the $150,000 range.
Yeah.
I don't think.
How much does the dock cost to build?
I have no idea.
You're not involved with that?
Committee, you have any other questions?
What kind of dinghy are you putting on it?
What kind of dinghy?
Yeah.
26
He's got
regulator.
kayaks at the moment. Kayak canoe.
Duh.
Wouldn't it be easier to have a kayak rack on the beach and just start floating
There
on the
isn't a
sand
beach.
instead of walking?
I don't think there is a beach.
There is
No,
no?
there is a beach.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure. There's sand between
there
the
a beach
bulkhead
on
and the
there?
land that doesn't
Oh, it's marsh.
go wet unless maybe
Or just going
big
over
tide.
the marsh?
I thought it was just marsh, no?
Yeah. it says
Yeah,
marsh.
this is.
Oh, well, beach, marsh. There's,
This is an interesting piece because probably 15 years ago, it was almost all sandy beach. And the salt marsh is filling in, and I would say that the marsh now covers at least 70% of the shorefront there. So the sandy portion is disappearing.
Is this on Oyster Harbors?
Yeah.
Is it in the little cove?
Not quite to Windmill Cove, south of Windmill Cove.
Okay.
So Jake, wouldn't there be two ways of looking at that, where it's filling in with marsh grass? That would certainly slow down water in storms, and also promote a healthier area with, you know, what everything that's living can live there. I can see why somebody would want to have who goes to, we've got so many beaches that you can go to that are, yeah. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Hearing is scheduled for the 3rd of January.
Yeah.
Okay?
When are you doing a survey?
Next week.
Next week?
As soon as she gets the results of that typed up, I can share them with the committee.
Great, thank you. Anybody else?
And how many feet out is it going again? It's right here.
We heard
60-something, I think.
60-something.
3 from the low water mark?
Or from the bulkhead? Is it 63 feet from the bulkhead or the?
No, from low water.
Okay.
So, what's the difference between low water and the bulkhead?
Mean low water. So then,
Right.
That's,
only 20 feet or?
And it's starting at the bulkhead, you say?
Give you the right number.
The whole thing?
So overall, this is, from the bulkhead to the end of the platform, it's 136 feet.
Is there a requirement that Concom limit the length?
They limit the length to 1/2 the high water width of the property measured out from low water.
Okay,
So if your property's 100 feet wide at the high water mark, you get 50 feet beyond low water.
If you're like along the shoreline, if it's 100 feet wide
interesting.
along the shoreline,
At the high
How
water
do they come
mark,
up with that
yeah,
one?
and then you get 50 feet out.
out from low water.
Mhm.
They couldn't have made it more complicated.
Yeah. Okay, anybody from the public want to weigh in on this request? No, hearing none, I shall move on. Unless we want to do anything as a committee, we don't even have a shellfish survey yet. And we are not going to meet between now and the conservation hearing.
I mean, I'll make a recommendation to not approve it based on my knowledge of the area.
And what is it rated? You said it was substantial.
It's high enough to require 30 inches, so let me check. I thought I was going to have 10 minutes to sit here.
Sorry about that.
It's the advantage of coming late to the meeting.
Okay.
What's the material that we're using again here?
6.
It's a 6. Okay.
This is,
So, Jake, you started to go down the road of,
yeah, I'd like to make a motion to not approve this project based on the unnecessity of a non-motorized dock and in an area that is really good shellfish habitat.
okay? Been moved? Do we
I'll
have a second?
it.
second.
Okay, seconded. Discussion? Further discussion? So I think the only effective way that we can
So what do you-
act as a committee is to send a letter to Conservation to express our opinion. You're looking at me, so I'm going to ask you, if you don't mind, to prepare a letter along the lines of this, if it is so approved, if that's okay. Could you do that? You had a question? No.
Well, my only question would be, if you don't have the dock there, as Jake wants to do, then where do you put the kayaks?
Yeah,
In the
they'll-
marsh?
Yeah, right on the marsh, right on the,
Is that what
there's
you
no,
want-
is there no
Is that what you
stairway?
want to do, put the
Yeah.
car?
I just
Well,
like
I-
everybody,
Marsh?
you know?
I would
Just like
think-
everybody.
So, so the answer is you'd rather have them destroy the marsh
Yeah,
than
yeah,
have the
that's
kids?
my
Oh, I
point.
mean, is that really where we're going right now?
Yeah,
That's where we're going with this?
well,
Yeah,
if he's,
Look at me.
if,
exactly where we're
you
going
can't
with it.
stop him from having a kayak or a canoe.
No,
No, you
No.
can't.
And-
Absolutely not. And they
and
beat their
he's
way
go-
down into the marsh,
And he's gonna have to bring it up above the water line
of course.
Yeah.
in order to save it.
That's
So how
completely
is he gonna
reasonable.
do that? He's gonna
Okay.
drag it through the marsh.
Of course, that's okay. I'll sleep okay.
excuse me.
And
Can I
that'll
ask a
kill the
question?
marsh.
Yeah, I have a
I
question.
think Conservation
How much marsh do you think
is
we're gonna
like
kill?
that.
They won't.
I bet they'll wind up with something 20 feet wide.
20 feet wide. He's gonna pick a new spot. He's not gonna go through the least resistance that he's beaten the path through. Have you ever walked through the woods? People don't make 20-foot wide beating paths through the woods. They make.
No,
Hey, you
but
have a
they do
question?
along the shore.
You have a question? Go
I
ahead.
have a question. Okay, what's his access to the beach area now? Is it steps?
There are steps there that get down to the beach.
Okay.
And the salt marsh has been filling in across the whole front.
Yeah. And what's the construction of those steps? Are they wood or are they?
They're wood.
They're wood, okay. And where has he been keeping the kayak right now?
Actually, I believe he
They
hasn't.
just bought the house.
He hasn't yet.
What's wrong with
2 years
that
ago.
path that's already right there? Do you see that path that's right there?
I
Goes right to the
do.
water. That's the property we're talking about.
That's right.
So they could continue using the path that they have going to the water already, couldn't they?
Yeah, but
Without disturbing any salt marsh, right?
So, okay,
No.
All right, yeah.
I'm just
So-
asking. I mean, it's right there.
So where does
Fair
he store his
question.
kayaks right now?
He hasn't got any right now.
Oh, he's going to, okay.
He
Did
needs
he
to
just
buy.
buy the house? Is this what you're telling me? Okay,
Just renovated the house.
just renovated it,
Just finished renovating the house about
There's a
6
path.
months ago.
okay. And they're living there year-round?
Living there full-time.
Okay, cool. All right, thanks.
any further discussion? Okay, there's a motion's been seconded. I'll bring it to a vote. All those in favor of sending a letter to Concom recommending disapproval of this dock, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Pat, if you'd get me a copy of that letter as soon as you can, so that it can be,
I'll talk to you tomorrow.
yeah, that'd be great, at the Conservation Commission hearing before the 3rd. Status, I'm going to move on to old business. Thank you, Arlene.
Thank you.
Status of the repair of Scudder Lane, Town Landing.
There are no updates at this time.
Okay.
I believe they're supposed to have another meeting in like,
Another meeting in another few months.
yeah, I don't think
went
it's,
to the last one.
it's not scheduled though yet,
No,
to
it's
my
not
knowledge.
scheduled.
Yeah, I don't
No.
see any other
And they're
updates.
very attuned to the fact that nobody wants much done.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And when
did
you
watch
say
the
they,
They got the word.
Dan Santos, is that who you're talking about?
I don't know who.
So Dan Santos is the director of DPW, but this project itself is being handled mostly by Paul Graves and Griffin Bowden, so. But Paul was the one that gave the presentation.
I don't know.
I went to that presentation, all right? And by and large, the issues that the residents brought up was, one, they had no problem with the commercial people, they had no problem with the recreational people, they were real happy with the way the town marked off the road and the parking on the road on opening day of Oyster, and it remains that way, so that people are not parking right across from some of the lanes and making it tight. That was approved. And their big problem was that apparently there is individuals coming down with their trucks after hours, partying on the beach, racing down the lane. The major concern is that it's a narrow lane, people walk their dogs, and they're concerned for their safety, which is understandable. That was the upshot of everybody else seemed to be happy with the design that came out of that. It is what you people had talked about and want there. No changes in what we're gonna see, no curve, which was what was on the original proposal for that area.
How about concrete curbing?
None.
I was a little concerned about, like, they did say that, are we talking about the Scudder Lane boat ramp, right?
Yeah.
They're gonna have rocks off the side of it, which, like, is probably gonna make people wanna drive up that, which will undermine it, so I suggested that we did, like, a solid, instead of just a ramp with loose rocks, maybe the whole thing solid, so that you could go at it from not just a direct angle, because when the tide does come up too, depending on how they make that ramp, if there's that loose gravel there, you'd have to drive back into the water to get out at extreme high tides, and a lot of people might do that.
Gotcha. I just hope it doesn't end up like Bay Street in Osterville.
Yeah, no.
Chris, what do you got?
If I may, before Paul Cusack was the council liaison to the Shellfish Committee, I had spoken with the town manager and had heard that there were, from the users of Bay Street, and John Novoychik, who has since passed away, who said when there were renovations scheduled in the town's capital improvement plan, I said, oh, that's good news. They're looking to spend some money to repair Scudder Lane. I said, echoing John's words, he said, just don't let them do to Scudder Lane what they did to Bay Street. And I have to say that the town has been very responsive in listening first before they advance their plans, while it's still in the pencil and paper phase.
Great. Thank you, Chris.
I feel they were listening.
Great. Anybody else have any comments about the Scudder Lane Town Landing plans? Les, go ahead.
I just kind of,
You have to come to the microphone.
Yeah, step up to the microphone.
all right.
Introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name's Les Hemela. I'm an aquaculture guy. But it was back just after World War II. There was a big commercial fisheries in Barnstable Harbor. That whole area was owned by the commercial fishermen. That was donated to the town along with some money, which has since been lost, into the town to keep that landing in perpetuity for commercial shellfishermen. So that was kind of a gift from and this was for the old guys. It was, you know, the Mackeys and the Ceriellas and all of the older guys. That's where they offloaded to send the shellfish to New York, and they had cabins there and everything. It was pretty cool. But anyway, just a little history on it. I think you heard that before, right?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. That's all.
Thank you, Les. Good to see you. Anybody else? So this is a standing item on our agenda, right?
Yeah, at your request, yes.
Yep. Okay, great. So I'm going to move on to, before I get to yours, Chris, you want to plug?
Yes, please. So the town is now in the midst of conducting a survey in preparation for the town's local comprehensive plan development by the town's local comprehensive planning committee. So there is a survey. I've heard that there's been up to 780 or so responses. And the survey will close sometime, I believe, halfway through January. And there's 33 questions, I believe. So the local comprehensive plan happens once in every 10 years. It's the plan on how the town, what direction the town wants to go, big picture item kind of stuff. And here's your chance to vote for things you believe in. Shellfish habitat, open space, water quality. So I'm encouraging people with whom I have a relationship with at the committee level or the town level to indeed take the survey and vote, give the committee direction. So there's happens once every 10 years opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris.
Anybody can complete the survey. You don't even have to be a town of Barnstable resident. I think one of the questions are you a resident? Because some people work here. So I think that's the first question. I took it. It takes 5 minutes.
All right.
Vote
And we
for your
passed out that little
shellfishery.
postcard, so everybody's got that, or the blue one.
And I should say, if you go to the town's website, it's right on the homepage on the left. You click on it, it tells you when upcoming meetings are. They're doing a big outreach. Today, they had an open house at the Hyannis Hyannis Youth and Community Center. An open house. They've been hosting coffees. They've been going to the civic associations. But I'm suggesting that people who are making the investment to come to committees take that extra effort to do some homework and vote for your shell fishery. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. All right. So matters not reasonably anticipated by the chair. That's not true. I anticipated this. So it's a proposal to allow corporate licensing of aquaculture is the title of this document. And Al will introduce it, and
This has been a long time coming. I think I've put this off for many, many years because it didn't really make that much of a difference, but it's becoming getting a little later on in life, and we've got estate planning, but it's really much more than that, because this is about some of the gentlemen that are here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We've been in this business now for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years in some cases, and it's gotten to the point where we have all these leases that are in individual names because that's the way the town has the regulations. So you've got the case of Cape Cod Oyster Company, which started in business before they even had leases in the town. Basically, I was the guy that knocked on the door and said, hey, let's have some leases. And that's why there are corporate ownership leases in the town of Barnstable. I have them. Katuitt Oyster Company has them also, I think. So it's not like we're asking for something different or something new, because they've been in existence for 40 years. And in case of Katuitt Oyster, it's probably closer to 100 years. So that's one thing. But my main point is that you've got these businesses that have some acreage. In our case, we've got 28 acres in the town. Now I have a business. I've got employees. I've got salespeople. I've got a facility, equipment, trucks. And if something happens to me or my wife or Dave or his wife, all of a sudden the 28 acres becomes less, half as much, or 20% less. And so the business now is shrinking because you can't, in other words, if my license goes, where's it gonna go? My wife can't have 4 acres, but I can have 2 and she can have 2. So it's really it's a bad situation for anybody that's built a business, whether it's Les or Reynolds, right? It's not a good situation, because the business is going to go, not going to be there, because you're going to, in the case of Wayne Hayes, he's got a son that's been in business for 25 years, and he's got licenses in all these different names of relatives and so forth. And his son, what's his son going to do when Wayne and his mother, Wayne and his wife, the son's got the business he's been in for 25, 35 years, and all of a sudden he doesn't have any acres left. It's not a business anymore. So that to me is the most important part. You got employees that you're taking care of. In the case of my company, if I wanted to give the employees a piece of the action, I couldn't do it, because there's no way to do it.
You got a piece in their name. You got to put a piece in the, why not?
What if they don't live in the town?
I guess.
Oh, well, there's a problem. So there's so many different problems. Now, the other side of it is that the town, basically, Dave is in the case of Cape Cod Oyster Company, everything funnels through Dave. Dave pays all of, if there's a question, somebody calls Dave. You call Dave. Anybody calls Dave. If it's paying the fees at the end of the year, it's all done through one person. It's not done through my wife and his wife and Dave and me and on and on and on. It doesn't work that way. So all I'm trying to do is clean up the situation to where it should be, because it's a small business. It's always going to be a small business. We just want to make it a business that's going to last for, 100 years, like Katuitt Oyster, basically. They've been, I don't know how long that's been a long time. That's been there for a long, long time. And, it's still thriving,
My dad's 97, and his father was a salesman for them.
Was he for him? And his father was a salesman.
His father was the salesman.
So what I'm proposing is to still keep some restrictions, because the restrictions now are you gotta live in the town. I don't have a problem with that, but just make it so that the officer or the manager lives in the town, or the company has land in the town, which would be a resident, okay? That's one thing. Increase the fees. Instead of $25, make them $200 an acre. So that there's a difference, a differential. If you want to have a corporation, fine. If you don't, keep it as, the guy with the 2 acres or the 1 acre or whatever he's got, that's fine. I don't have a problem with any of that. So that's kind of where we at. I think what I'd like to do is let everybody think about it and come up with some questions, and maybe the next meeting we vote on.
You won't be here.
It's okay. Dave will be here. I can't vote on it anyway.
Probably not a good idea for you to
Probably
vote
not
on.
a good idea for me to vote.
So anybody in the committee before we open it to the public? So, yeah, go ahead.
Corporation bothers me. Because, small corporation, quietly owned, business going. But when you look at other things that are going on in our world today, what kind of control and how long can we hold on to it, as opposed to other people, other money, big money coming and wanting to take that and pull it in and use it. You could sell. If you sell,
Yeah?
who are you selling to? We have no control over that at the moment.
Well, you do have a control. In other words, if you look at this, you got control because the manager or the officer of the company has got to be a resident. Now, does that says something, doesn't
I
it?
guess what I'm thinking is, this isn't just today we have to think about at the moment. We have to look forward and try and figure out where our whole society would be going if certain things are going on, and how it's changing. The nature of the way we do business here in America has changed drastically. All right? In the last 25 years, it's incredible what it's changed. And if we're talking about changing something essentially like this, I want to be sure that I understand what that means, what the ramifications might be. Is there any way that foreign interest can get an interest in our little harbor?
I don't quite follow that.
I know, but it's just,
Well,
it needs to be, I have questions that, in my mind, it's like, wait a minute,
It's a
corporation,
small business.
corporation.
These
It
are
is now.
tiny
It
business.
is you, and it is
well,
personal,
no,
and
but
it is now.
it started off as a little business, tiny business.
It's still a family-owned business.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right, and when you go, where does that go?
Well,
Do we still have control? Or, it has to be a resident to have the owner,
yeah.
all right? But who's the owner? A lot of decisions, I think, sometimes that we make here on this board has to do with the fact that we see people and we know them. We know who they are, we know what their values are, we know the way their family is. We're in some ways, we are a closed society.
Well,
And we
I
wanna-
think in the case of this business, you have a situation where the business is in the town. In other words, you're growing shellfish in the town. You have boats in the town. You have trucks in the town. You have everything. In other words, you can't not be in the town. You have to be in the town. Where else are you gonna go?
You make really good points. me take it to kind of another extreme. And I come at this, you mentioned estate planning. Trusted estates is what I do. And so I feel for you relative to an estate planning aspect of this. But what's to stop an entity, LLC, corporation, whatever, from becoming the owner of every grant site in Barnstable Harbor over the course of time? I see in here, limit the corporation or LLC to no more than 40 acres. So LLC 1 has 40 acres. LLC 2 buys their grant, and they start buying more grants, and they get under LLC 2 another 40 acres. And then they go next door to Les, and they do the same thing, and they buy his and the neighbors, and then they now have another 40 acres.
Sort of like what we've already done.
Well, I think that's kind of where you were going. We are a society of box stores and conglomerates.
Well, we've already done that. What you've just said is exactly what we've done. Everybody in this room has done it.
What has happened is you've gamed the system because that you have to do that.
You have to.
You know,
choice.
You have 2 acres, your wife has 2 acres, the cat has 2, the dog has 2, whoever you can muster have the others. And I get how you've done that. But I guess I'm partly concerned about, okay, does Target end up owning all the grants in Barnstable Harbor? Or is, some foreign corporation going to, but they have an employee who's a resident? So those are variables that I don't know how we're going to figure them out, but I'm sure they can be figured out, because it'd be foolish for your death to occur, your wife's death to occur, and all of a sudden your Cape Cod oyster has to be pared down because you can't own those acres anymore. And that's ridiculous. So,
Well, and what do we do with the employees? They got 15 employees.
And you live in Barnstable?
they would be losers as a result of that, because your business would shrink or go out of business. And it doesn't make
Exactly.
sense.
Makes no sense.
No, it's a thriving blue economy, like you say.
And you need acreage. You can't have a business with 2 acres. You can't have a business with 4 acres.
Well, that gentleman that was just here before us who renewed his grant site, I know that's his side hustle. It's not his main
It's not a
gig.
business.
Well,
It's not his main business, let's
right.
put it that way.
Yep.
So would you prefer to have somebody that had something that wasn't his main business? Or would you prefer to have somebody running an operation that it was their main business and their livelihood depended on it?
Let me ask you this.
So I'll answer the question, Jake.
Yeah.
I would want somebody who is more invested in the business. They're more apt to be conscientious, I would think,
Yeah?
and do a better job, yeah.
Do it right.
They're concerned, because if it's their livelihood and all of a sudden they're messing around with Vibrio or whatever, they're less likely to allow those
Yeah,
problems
I
to
mean,
occur.
like as you know, we have a facility in Falmouth. And, I mean, they're just they're so happy that we're there because we actually know what we're doing. That's the difference. Now we're talking with other towns that see what we're doing and say, well, wait a minute, we'd like you to come to our town because you know what you're doing. So
What town is that?
that's I'm not gonna tell you. Not because I don't want
A
to.
business secret, I presume. Jake, you had a question?
No, I was just gonna say, I understand what you're saying about you don't want a bunch of hacks out there messing up, and,
Yeah.
right? But, I don't think that, first of all, you could prevent that very easily. We could reform the way that people get grants off the list by, if you go get a state permit, you have to prove that you have experience in fisheries. You can't just go get a state endorsement to catch lobsters or conch or sea bass and you can't just go get one, no matter how much money you have. You have to prove that you have experience in doing that. So that would be one way around getting, people that you're talking about that aren't using their farms and stuff like that. But another thing, for me, I'm involved in aquaculture, and for me, it's something that I do in the winter months or when it's windy out, when I can't be on my fishing boat. So, yeah, I produce a decent amount. Do I produce the most? But no. Do I make a mess? No. But I'm still using it as part of a club in my bag of my entire year that I make up. So, you know, for people to be able to one day have 2 people in Barnstable Harbor with 40 acres each, I mean, that's doesn't seem very fair. And in that, to that point, I can every young person that you look at, well, most young people that you look at on those boats, working on those farms, your farms, everyone's farms here, those people that are there in their late 20s and early 30s are still working for you, are hoping to probably get into this and own their own farm one day. And the only hope that they have of that happening is the way that the rules are set up in place, so that you can't have too many farms in one person's name, and it creates the opportunity in the future for them to possibly snag one when you die. That's it.
That's a good
Yeah,
point.
good point. Public?
Not a very good point as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, Les, go ahead. But you have to stand or sit at the chair and speak into the microphone.
Anyway, you might remember, it's Les Hemela again. It was probably 10 years ago or more. We set up a whole area of grants in the back of the harbor. We set up 14 sites, and not one person applied for one of those sites. Why not?
What year was
What
that?
area is this?
It's up,
Right at the
Like
Spring
past-
Creek? Spring Creek?
Are you talking about past like the grants on by Scoring Creek? Yeah.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
There's a whole area back there. This is
Yeah.
like 30 acres.
So
I thought that was like
2014, it
Okay.
was 28 acres, came down to 24
Okay.
acres. We did the surveys
Right.
for those areas. Subcommittee was created.
Right?
Subcommittee was dissolved because there were too many people that were stakeholders to be holding those discussions ethically. And those never went to be permitted. They were never
Nobody applied for
permitted.
them.
Nobody can apply for something that's not actually like
applicable.
permitted.
But why wasn't it put forward?
Because we didn't want to put it forward, and then after that, nobody from that subcommittee wanted to put it forward because nobody was gonna get any of that acreage because we argued that it should go to the wait list and not to the people who
But
were
why
on that
wouldn't-
subcommittee.
Why would you not put it forward?
Because we didn't have anyone to, like, it didn't come from us. The request came from the Shellfish Committee. We did the surveys on behalf of the Shellfish Committee, showed that it was suitable habitat. When it was discovered that our intent was to, if that area was permitted, address the wait lists. Nobody
think
from
that
the
was the
Shellfish
whole
Committee
point of
wanted
it.
to move it forward
That
anymore.
was the whole point of the 14 acres, or whatever, how many acres it was.
14,
It
yeah.
ended up being
It was
24.
was 14 sites, I think.
Which, yeah, initially it was 14 sites at 2 acres, but it had to be pared back to 24 acres, and I think it would have been, at that point, what, 12?
Yeah, whatever it
sites.
was. The members that were on the Shellfish Committee couldn't apply because they already had their limit of 2 acres.
Yeah, but at that time, you were also promoting that we changed acreage limitations so that you could be able to
Right,
apply for
but
those
it didn't,
sites.
yeah.
No, exactly. So that it just all dissolved.
Right.
And now at that point, those shellfish surveys are only good for 3 years.
Right.
We're
Oh, it's
working
dead- it's
on
a dead
9
issue now.
years. Now, I mean, it's horseshoe crab spawning habitat. There are razor clam sets there periodically.
right.
I mean, it's barren in terms of what the state uses to determine is a shellfish area being barren or not. But it has important resources present there. In addition, I don't know that the town's gonna wanna go through extensive MIPA.
Oh, I don't think
review
they should go
to
through it
permit
again.
A huge block of area. Yeah,
I'm not suggesting they do it again. I'm just saying that they were put up and nobody wanted them.
they weren't actually put up. They were
Really?
never put up.
Okay.
Jake?
I mean, I don't even actually have a problem if like people wanted to sell their grants. You know, if people wanted to build a business and sell their grants, that doesn't bother me either. But I do think that there has to be some sort of restrictions to prevent like monopolization, you know, too much consolidation. It doesn't make sense to build a business and have all these assets and then not be able to sell the land and everything with it. I get that, but it can't be like just let's consolidate these, create a business, and then here we go, just sell this to whoever wants to buy it anywhere in the world. I mean, there's got to be some restrictions. I know, I mean, you don't have
Missing
to,
something.
yeah, what?
This is America, I thought.
Yep,
Are we in
I'm
America?
waiting until.
I mean,
okay.
then.
And we'll be clear, though, you don't own the land. The land
It's a lease.
is land
Yeah.
taken out of public domain that is leased for private aquaculture. You own the license that is issued to you by the
When
town
you signed
that
up for
allows
this,
you
you
to
knew all the
operate
terms, right?
an aquaculture farm.
I have grants
Don't you
that
own-
are, I have
Don't you know
corporate
everything?
ownership in the town of Barnstable. I have it on the north side and the south side.
Yes.
It's not like they don't have it.
Okay,
They
so-
have it.
So you took,
I
you
personally-
personally formed your corporation?
I personally
You-
put
okay,
my
so it works,
leases.
it works for you.
Huh?
It works for you. That's what you did.
Well, it works for me
It gives
to
you
the point of the-
protection, it
the
gives
ones
you
that are in
tax
corporate
breaks, it gives
names.
you a lot of,
Is there an
No, it
outsourcing
doesn't give me
grant?
anything other than it's in a corporate
Yeah.
name. It gives you shelter from lawsuits and stuff like that.
I was never thinking of suing you.
Well, you know, you can if you want.
Anybody else from the public wish to weigh in on this? And just, before you speak up, it's Aaron, right? Jared, I'm sorry.
I get it mixed.
Right. We'll put it on the agenda for our next meeting so that we can have a discussion off the agenda, which will be publicly, disseminated, so many more people probably will be here. This is just kind of, we're teeing it up, if you will.
Yeah,
Jared.
Jared Hemmel at Barnstable Sea Farms.
He's your brother?
Aaron is. Yep.
Not DJ.
So, yeah, I'm in Barnstable Sea Farms with my dad, my brother, and we each own a grant. There's two of them on the north side, one on the south side. And, you see all these grants with, different people, all the same last name, and we just want to, get it all one piece. I mean, we all work for the same company, and we would like to, Dad's in his 70s, and he's retiring, but we're still, going to be going on for quite a few more years, and, it's something we want to continue and grow, and we just want to be able to incorporate into like a limited liability company and just grow our business. So we would just like the company to be able to own the grants instead of, having me and my brother and my kid and my dog or whatever owning. So that's, just.
I think from paperwork standpoint, it makes sense, because you don't want to, you guys are using seed on all different farms, and it's all the same seed.
It all comes
and
from the
it's
same
like,
place, yeah, and it's.
But it comes back down to like when they go to sell, are they going to go to somebody in Boston or New York?
No, who knows? Whoever
Well, I know.
whoever wants
I
it.
think that's the concern, though.
I don't think it's a concern. I mean, if you want to be in the business, what do you think? Some guy from New York's going to buy a business that's in, in
Yes,
Osterville?
yes.
I think that's exactly
And
what
what's he
happened
going
at
to do?
Taylor Sea Farms.
What's the
Exactly.
I
plan?
mean, who
That's
runs,
exactly-
Well, who's going to run the business?
who runs the guy that
Who's
was
running it
here?
now?
You going to run the business?
Who's running it now?
Doesn't Pangea run the
You know,
farm that we
he-
were just talking about?
We've got people here locally that he can hire to run it for him, but
Yeah.
yes, he still is not a
So
resident.
is that a bad thing?
I don't know, it's just, I'm questionable about it.
Listen, Al.
I would
Al,
say,
Al, who
what I
runs-
would
Somebody
like
bought
is,
my
A,
business.
be able to give you what you want, but protect what we have
Yeah, but
here.
let me ask you this. If I tomorrow, if my wife and I died tomorrow,
Are you flying or are you going by train?
die tomorrow, now, I've got 15 people working for me.
Now,
And
you,
some guy comes from New York and says, I'm going to buy that from the estate because I want to be in the oyster business,
yeah,
and pays my estate $3, okay? And
is that all you're
that
worth?
saves the business,
I
and
understand.
it saves the 15 employees, and it saves the business that we do all over the friggin' Cape Cod, between trucks and this and that and the other thing. I mean, it's millions of dollars a year in business. Now, if you want to just flush that down the toilet.
No.
Then go ahead.
Have you had a long talk with Stu about this?
No.
Estate planning?
Because it's not about estate planning. It's about the company. It's not about,
Is
in other
it?
words, the estate planning is one
It's an
thing.
aspect of it, certainly.
Yeah.
but-
Yeah, it's an asset of my estate. But this company cannot survive in the way it is today. It can't survive.
So, is there any way that somehow in his estate planning, he can write what's going to happen to that
It's
company
not up
after
to me,
his
it's up to the
goes.
town.
I would suggest that Al has made a valid point just now. He can write whatever he wants in his
Yeah.
plan, but the regulations are the regulations.
So the regulation says that it has to go back here.
You have to be a resident of the town. You can have no more than 2 acres on the north side and 2 acres on the south side. That's what it says, in its most primitive form. And at this point, and I recognize it, at this point, people are manipulating those words, and they're getting away with it. And more power to them, but that's a fact.
So, David Ryan from Katuitt, a partner in Cape Cod Oyster Company. I just want to make it clear that we certainly, it hasn't been anything that's been not obvious to everyone that Cape Cod Oyster Company is composed of a bunch of different aquaculture sites, some corporately owned, some family owned. Many of my family, I've had to shift from kids to sisters to wives as the family has grown and moved on. But the town clearly understands that it's me running the show.
Right.
It's not my wife. It's right now I have one son that's working in the company, but he's not actually even a resident right now. So the aquaculture license is with my youngest son. I sign every catch report to the town. I sign every catch report to the state. My name is on every state permit that's for all these individual licenses to all these different people. So my name is on Al's wife's aquaculture license from the state. So there's nothing that we're doing that's not out in the open and obvious and recognized. If there's an issue on my sister's grant, Amy calls me. She doesn't call my sister.
Right.
So.
And that's a good thing.
Right.
But nothing would get done, right?
That's right. So, this is how it's run. We're just looking to clean it up, legitimize it all. In addition to ensure some continuity.
And on that, Bill, I'm going to suggest that at our next meeting, be prepared with more information so that we can have a fruitful discussion. It'll be on the agenda.
Yeah, you can think about, read this over, and
I think it also ought to go to legal. Legal needs to know how we can solve this.
there are towns, there's Falmouth,
Yarmouth,
Yarmouth,
Fairhaven,
No?
what's the other one?
Fairhaven.
Fairhaven, Plymouth, all corporate. You can have corporate.
Including the town of Barnstable, it does allow corporate.
Yeah.
De facto.
De facto,
Yeah.
exactly.
And then you mentioned the town of Falmouth. The town of Falmouth does not require that you be a resident.
Right.
Town of Fairhaven, I think, has got a similar rule.
It's you can be a corporation, but resident.
No,
But
not
in
even
other words, you
resident,
can be
a property owner.
Yeah, if you're a property owner,
Don't have to
you're
be a resident.
So you could have ABC Corporation own a piece of property in the town of Barnstable, and that is sufficient in that town, you say?
Correct.
Because it's got to be that nexus. Okay.
Which is not a bad way to do it in this town. Make it, you get own property.
You give me 2 acres and I'll say yes. Yes.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
And we'll strike that from the minutes. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn. Is that it?
Second.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.